Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Friday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, the big and furry bovine, and I'm flying solo today, as everybody knows that the NFL goes on and the Browns are at home. So I don't mean playing at home; I mean playing with themselves at home. But at any rate, I understand that a lot of fans kind of get off the whole football thing once their team is out of it. We have a lot to talk about today, actually. And I want to start out the program with something that is of interest to me simply because of my background. Uh, the parent company of Bally Sports is facing bankruptcy. And this is an interesting thing because it will affect not only the Cleveland Guardians, but eventually the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are both carried on Bally's Sports Ohio. The parent company, it's really kind of an interesting setup. Diamond Sports Group, technically, it's a subsidiary of Sinclair Broadcasting. Sinclair is a cable television operator that owns television stations. They started out buying UHF frequencies that ran the home shopping network and things of that ilk, and built their way into a company that owns television stations about 40% of the country, very heavily in the South and the Midwest because of their extreme right-wing politics. And everybody knows where I stand on this. And it doesn't matter to me if I'm watching programming on a television network, but if I'm watching news on that, then yeah, that's right, Kelly. You tell them. Go hater on them. We'll go against the Bengals just to go against the grain, right? When you force news anchors to read scripted information that supports the far right cause, you've lost your grip. Be that as it may, this will come into play in just a few minutes. The bottom line is that they will owe $2 billion in broadcast rights, and their company's only got about 580 million on hand. They're in deep shit. And what this will do potentially is create a problem for teams like the Guardians and the 14 regional markets in baseball who agreed to be broadcast by this ticky-tack operation. And I'll get to that as well. The first thing I want to ask is, how in God's name does a Mickey Mouse company like Sinclair, I'm going to read off what their holdings are, and it's really staggering. The markets that they're in, and I don't even know if I have a list of all the markets they're in, but these are not the major markets of America. I cannot for the life of me understand how they ended up getting the baseball rights and sporting rights in 14 regionals. They paid a ton of flipping money. I mean, a ton of money, like $100 billion in order to get the rights to broadcast these games. And they're nothing but a cable TV operator. They know nothing about streaming whatsoever, and they proved it by coming out with that horrible Bally Sports Ohio app, thinking that people were going to pay $20 or whatever a month so that they could watch the games on their mobile devices. These people are living in the fucking past, and they're not a company that that should be playing ball with the big boys. And everybody knows in this country that streaming media is all the rage. And it's fun being my age because I saw everything change. I saw things change from newspapers to electronic media, and now I've seen it changing from television to online streaming. So that now you have, mega companies, a huge number of companies that have streaming platforms. But don't worry, it won't last long. It never does. Because in this country, we're only interested in the 2 or 3 companies who are going to end up streaming everything to us. And that's where Sinclair's relationship with Major League Baseball will come in very handy. Because all those white right-wing conservative owners will most definitely bail Sinclair out. Now, it's not going to stop them from going through the bankruptcy process, but it could change the way you watch sports, and it will cost you more. That is what I can tell you. Here are the choices, basically, that they have in bankruptcy. They could hand the local rights back to teams. That's like, nah. What are the teams going to do with that? They're certainly not capable of handling. This is not the old days where you show X number of games on WUAB TV 43 with Joe Tate and Bruce Trennan. I love you, Joe. Joe? How come you never talk to me, Joe? It's not that. So they could just hand the local rights back to the teams. They could keep the contracts without making payments. That's an American thing to do, just stiff people. But teams, in case of non-payment, could be offered equity in a restructured company after bankruptcy. I don't think that the Dolans, after what they experienced in New York City, their family, Yes Network and all of that stuff, I really don't think that they want any equity in a restructured Sinclair operation that is clearly a bozo operation. So what is the way out? Because you're the fan, you want to watch the games, right? Major League Baseball's already on top of this one, folks. They're going to chart a completely different course here. Back on January 12th, Commissioner Rob Manfred named Billy Chambers to the newly created position of Executive Vice President of Local Media. Isn't that convenient? Chambers served as a CFO and COO of 21 RSNs acquired by Sinclair from Disney. And that's, Disney was the ones who owned all of the sports networks, and they ended up having to pay a ton of money to Disney, right? Before that, he spent 20 years with Fox Sports Media Group. So this is right up his alley. Manfred, the commissioner, has made it a point to say, hey, we want the ability for our fans to watch their local teams. Well, there's only one way it's going to happen. It's bid time and big time. I'm sorry, Sinclair paid Disney $10 billion in 2019 to buy these 14, what are now known as, they were formerly known as the Fox Sports Networks, and now the regionals. Now they're Bally's, because the first thing they did, being the little ticky-tack operator they are, is they rebranded their product based on a gambling institution. Fucking Republicans. They're really high moral standard people, these far right-wing people. But if you can end up bankrupting more people and making misery in their lives at the same time, why not? Sinclair is facing a deadline, folks. They'll have to pay the leagues and the teams $2 billion in fees for the year. or declare bankruptcy. That's where they're at. And the Guardians, they gonna want their money. There ain't gonna be no excuses here. The Cavaliers are gonna be in the same situation. But you should know instinctively that this doesn't just happen out of nowhere. The whole thing that has changed, I mean, you notice how DirecTV's gone now. NFL doesn't need DirecTV. Bronk is asking a very fair question. What's going to happen to Dwayne Stat?
I don't know there, Bronk. I'm just hoping to God that somebody pays the fucking bill.
I don't know. I don't even know if they're one of the 14 teams. I don't know. I don't keep track of that stuff. What I can tell you is that the whole idea of a Bally Sports app was the most retarded thing I have ever seen in modern technology history. Nobody likes it. People aren't paying for it. And people are trying to illegally broadcast games into their home just so they can steer clear of fucking Sinclair and their stupidity. There's only a few companies big enough to pull this off, folks. And it's the same thing as the DirecTV NFL package that is now, what they've announced that is going to Amazon, and it's going to, whoever, is going to be involved, the big boys. And that's what consolidation is all about. And pretty soon you're going to see all these little stupid ass, like Comet. That's one of the streaming services that Sinclair actually owns. That will tell you just how far off they are. So you're going to wind up watching the games. You're just going to be paying a fortune for that shit. I guarantee you that's the case. But Sinclair will not lose a goddamn thing in this process. They're going to get out whole because they're pals. This is exactly what Major League Baseball, just like the NFL, wanted to have happen. Like, hey, the NFL bid it up to what? $3 billion? That's the word. Unreal. So, coming soon, and your bill is going to cost you more so that you can pay the Dolans and you can pay the Gilberts and you can pay Amazon. Something to look forward to. All right, I'm off that now. Off the soapbox and into the concerns and worries of professional football. Tua is still in protocol. So, the little Pro Bowl games that they're doing, he ain't going to be participating in that. This has been a month now. And this guy is still in the concussion protocol. Don't you think, really? And I know he won't quit himself. He's like a boxer. Not a dog. Not that kind of boxer. He's like all these guys who fight way beyond the time they should. This is a message. This is God, the hand of God. This is providence telling him, don't. Stop playing football while you have your faculties. And Tua will go out and play anyway. And of course, the owners will say, yeah, we'll give him another chance. What the hell? And his brains will be scrambled. And some people are just physiologically more prone, to concussions. And he obviously is one of them. I just find it really objectionable. The guy's in the concussion protocol for over a month. There's something wrong. It's not supposed to take that long. And he's had a couple back-to-back. This is just not good. And the sad part of it is that he had a pretty good year, right? He was an first alternate Pro Bowler. They had a pretty good year, but the gods are speaking. Get out of this. And at the same time, Andy Reid has confirmed, oh, hell yeah, Patrick Mahomes will start. Well, we knew that was coming. He has a high ankle sprain. And I'll tell you something that if you've never had one before, you'd know it ain't going to heal. Not until the season's long over. They're putting him out there on the field because at this point, they've gotten this far and they can't win without him. They can't win with him at this point either. Let's be honest. He looked horrible in the last game. He's just not a pocket passer. And he does not have anything elusive. And the second somebody comes in on him, the pain will be too great. He may start, but he ain't going to last for long. And if you're Patrick Mahomes, you have, the desire. This is what the whole season is pointed toward, and it's a shame that this happened to him. So it's going to rob us of what would have been a really, really good football game. So, well, Amsterdam, but your wife bitch slaps you. And look how goofy you are. I think you have lingering brain damage. I could make that argument hold up in court. See what I did there? That's called a counter punch, Amsterdam. So Mahomes will start, and they're trying to feed us. Oh, he looked pretty good in practice. Yeah, with a walker. Not bad. You can't do shit at a high ankle sprain. But the bottom line is, they got, what else can they do but give it a go? And somehow, do something to prevent the Bengals from rushing the quarterback. And I don't know, they got to do something. I don't know what they would do. Give them Sominex before the game in their water bottles and put them to sleep on the field. I don't know. The one that's possible is the 49ers could beat Philadelphia. That's possible. Jalen Hurts, had a great year, but we haven't seen him do it. And Brock Purdy, it isn't that Brock Purdy is going to lead them to this big, huge scoring game. But if they can hold on to the ball, run enough clock off, and get a couple of turnovers defensively, I could see them losing. Cincinnati, I can't see finding a way to lose this game, although Zach Taylor could if given enough motivation. It's I just can't see how Cincinnati really, and you can say, well, they're not completely at full strength with their offensive line. They sure look pretty strong this last game. And they got Burrow, they got Jamar Chase. The only one, Hayden Hurst, they're saying has a calf injury, but the fact that his baby cow got hurt, I don't think that's going to affect Cincinnati that much. No, if he can't play, that will affect them because that middle of the field is very important. That check down guy is very important to Burrow because still, Burrow doesn't want to take any more hits than he has to take. Let's be honest about that. Nobody does, but him especially, because, he got hurt real bad. We don't want him to get hurt again until we do it to him. Yeah. Here's what Andy Reid had to say. I'm a walrus. Go shoot. No. I'm sorry. You're the ones who tune in for this shit. I'm the one who things fly into my head and they fly out of my mouth. I have no idea. He's moving around well. He can go out and play. Something he's talking about his grandchildren. got a little mosquito bite. They can go out and play. Mahomes has practice all 3 days this week. So, we'll see what happens. But I don't think that's going to be such a good situation. Sad news to report. Billy Packer, the longtime Final Four basketball analyst, passed away at 82. The one thing I can tell you is that Billy Packer was on the right network because he got to do all those great NCAA tournament games. And poor Dick Vitale didn't get to do the NCAA tournament games. He did like the ACC and the championships of the leagues. But because CBS owned the rights, man, Dick Vitale just no way. And it was kind of sad because living down here with Dick, I know that he would have loved to have done that, but Billy Packer did a good job, and his health went down pretty quickly, and he ended up with a systemic shutdown in which his kidneys failed, and that's usually sepsis, something that is blood poisoning in essence that just takes somebody out. And too young, 82, I like to say now, and it's a sad day that so sad. Now, here's the next part of an odd situation. And the Panthers have hired Frank Reich as their new head coach, proceeding to shit all over Steve Wilkes, who went 6-6. You're going to say, well, 6-6 doesn't exactly guarantee you a job. It's like, but that's the Panthers. Frank Reich is a more offensive-minded coach, and the Panthers have always, since the beginning, had a defensive-minded coach. And then this is their first foray into hiring a white, offensive-minded coach. As for Wilkes, this is the second time this has happened to him. It's not coincidental. He's part of the NFL lawsuit. You know that. And I don't know what you have to do. Do I think Steve Wilkes is the right guy for the job in Carolina? I think anyone who takes that job just wants to stay in coaching. It's just like the Baker Mayfield thing. He wants to keep playing football. He played in Carolina. Now nobody wants him. He's going right into free agency, and that's that. And if he doesn't, if he's not careful, he could end up a New York Jet behind Zach Wilson. It's possible. I don't know what's going to happen to Baker Mayfield, but that's all it really takes is a trip or two to bad franchises like the Browns. And he's already had two, Baker. And he's going for the trifecta next. Frank Reich got let go of it in his last job. He did some nice work while he was up in Indianapolis. He did. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and criticize him. The thing is, it's not like they hired some bozo. Reich has legitimate chops being a head coach in the NFL. But I don't know. You got to give people a chance, for God's sakes. The guy brought your team with that horrible start, and he went 6-6. I think when he got there, they were like 1-4. And that's exactly right, Rick. In that division, they were playing for in the last week, they were playing for the postseason. As goofy as that sounds. No, that would be Mussolini. A moose should know that. The train's running on time. That was Mussolini. It was not, although he was a fan of the Third Reich. Frank Reich has nothing to do with the Third Reich. Two different things. So this is what I say. You've got Brian Flores, who got fucked. Now you've got Steve Wilkes, who's been fucked. They keep recycling the same older and older white man into the position. The NFL has a legitimate problem. A legitimate problem. And and I'm going to tie this into another story because in and of itself, the results will speak for themselves. If Reich does a great job, nobody will remember Steve Wilkes. Steve Wilkes is not my idea of a great head coach. I will say that up front. But man, to keep him on, like he was in the running for the job. He was in the running. He was never in the running for the job. They stamped interim on him, and that was it. It was all over. The thing I want to talk about also gets to the heart of a racial problem. Small black universities and their athletic conferences after Deion Sanders packed his bags and left Jackson State to go to Colorado. And now the debacle that was Ed Reed and Bethune-Cookman, these HBCU, colleges and athletic departments, basically they told Ed Reed that they don't want him. And Ed Reed didn't exactly go about making any friends early in his, before he could do anything. He was doing things basically like he would do it on a field as a leader and as a safety for the Baltimore Ravens and just start, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And he didn't really go through the proper channels. There's a lot of problems. But the problem with college football is that the streets are lined and paved with gold. Deion Sanders didn't give a shit about Jackson State. He never gave a shit about anything except Deion Sanders. Let's be honest. And Ed Reed is a motherfucking cocksucker. You know it, and I know it. What he was doing was he was trying to pull a Deion. That's what he was trying to do. This is so that I don't want people to think that I judge people on black and white. There is increasing pressure to pay for athletics at lesser schools as far as financial institutions. Traditionally, black colleges have difficulty competing. And then the whole structure of college football as such is that the big keep getting bigger. So when Jackson State hired Deion Sanders, it was like a big thing and it got them publicity. Thank you, Christopher. I love you. I will. I'll tune in ESPN 8:50 a.m. And I might even call in if there's an open line. I don't say Ed Reed is great because he's black. It's like, no. I look at a situation where Bethune-Cookman made a mistake, all right? You hire somebody who is a celebrity athlete, and you would think that they would know a little bit better than that. You would think. But Bethune-Cookman, it's not like it's anywhere on the map as far as athletics are concerned. Reed had spent the past year as a senior football advisor for the Miami Hurricanes, which means nothing whatsoever. When you decide that you're going to hire somebody like that, who's the athletic director at Bethune-Cookman? Reggie Theus, the former Sacramento King basketball player. So maybe Reggie thought it was a really good idea to go with the celebrity athlete concept. This doesn't help his university one iota. And I'm not sure there's anything that's ever going to help these universities because people will use them to be, a stepping stone. And it's a disgusting thing to me that African Americans won't even help each other, God damn it. And no, I ain't going to pay them for what happened hundreds of years ago. I ain't going to pay them for that until they learn to help one another. Where's the hand up? Every one of the athletes who said, oh my God, Ed Reed, he's coming to Bethune-Cookman. And they signed letters of intent. And within a couple of months, he's gone. He hasn't even gotten a coach. And these players are stuck in nowhere again. You're telling me that they would have signed to come on to Bethune-Cookman? The athletes themselves, they did something. They wanted to bring their talents, LeBron, bring their talents to Bethune-Cookman because they saw there was a chance that there would be some publicity and that they get noticed because they're talented athletes. And so they gave their African-American university a chance. But until everybody in that community starts helping one another, it's like growing up, it was crazy for me. I could never figure it out. You had Al Sharpton. You had Farrakhan. It's like, oh, come on. Can't we have somebody who's not totally polarizing and a blatant fucking liar? It bothers me. Because, where's Jackson State? What did it get Jackson State? It got some players over there, but all the players left. They left with Deion to go to Colorado. That bastion of African America, that's the home of Coors beer, all the goddamn African Americans in Colorado. What it reminds me of is the JUCOs, junior colleges for basketball. Players who didn't really qualify with high test scores to go to major universities would go to JUCOs for 2 years so that they could qualify to go to large universities and go to play at Nevada, Las Vegas, or, that kind of thing. And UNLV, all their players came from JUCOs. Oh, and they had substandard living places that they put them in. Just go back and watch Hoop Dreams. You see it. It's like, give me a fucking break. But the kids, they have a dream. They want to play ball. And who's to say that somebody from Bethune-Cookman wouldn't make it into the pros? Maybe one of those kids would. But I'll tell you that had a better chance had they gotten signed in with a better program than that. But they wanted to give the school a chance. And there's nowhere for them to follow Ed Reed to, because he ain't going to be hired nowhere, and that's the end of that. And you know something? When Deion Sanders is done with those young men, go ahead and find a job here in Colorado. Maybe you can form like a tribute band for John Denver. Rocky Mountain High, Colorado. Pathetic. That there is all of these issues. College sports. 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. All you had to do was watch the Cavaliers game yesterday. and the Houston Rockets. Goodness gracious. Jalen Green averages 22 points a game and he shoots 50 shots a night, it seems. His shot is so fucked up. These guys, if they're not in transition and just running up the court as fast as they can at breakneck speed, they're not playing. If they have to actually stop and have to think about what they're doing, I don't know what Steven Silas is doing, or if it's they gave him a bunch of 19-year-olds, what he's supposed to do, I don't know. That team's terrible. Terrible. Cavaliers were up by 30 points in that game without Donovan Mitchell. How the hell does that happen? Okoro was giving Jalen Green fits. And Jalen Green was the number 1 pick in that draft, and he can't shoot. He can drive. He's very athletic. Goodness only knows. But that shot is never going to be, it's a lot like, Lonzo Ball kind of stuff, I mean, the shot is just not pure. Very strange. But I watched the game, and now we're going to have to watch the back-to-back, which isn't going to be so pretty against the Thunder, Tunder, and, Rubio, of course, can't play back-to-backs coming off his surgery, and doubtful is the word they're using for Donovan Mitchell. He's not going to play. His groin is messed up, and you're not going to waste it out there. You got to give him as much time off as you possibly can at this point. Can the Cavaliers actually win against? Right now, the Thunder's playing good ball. They've won, I think, 8 of their last 12 games, but they've beaten good teams in the process. They've been doing pretty well over there recently. And you obviously don't know the truth, Amsterdam. I'll agree with you. LeVert is a tradable asset, but Kevin Love is not. Kevin Love is having back spasms, thumb problems, head problems, God only knows what else. And the way he's played, nobody going to want him. He has no hops. He has no speed left. Is not there. What the Cavaliers are going to have to hope for, and I've dropped the name of Hardaway Jr. Or you can even throw out some of your second round picks that never go anywhere, like Dylan Windler. Second round guys don't make it in the NBA. They become G leaguers. If you could dump the second round pick and a couple second round picks and get a guy like Dougie McBuckets, I guess, or I don't know who else, I guess, who's the other one? Josh Richardson. What you need is somebody who can stand in a corner and make threes. I think Hardaway Jr. is probably the best. He's 39-40% from out there. That's about what you're going to get. LeVert, I could see being traded, but if you're the Cavaliers, you need that 3. And it's not even a 3 guy who's like, 3 and D. You don't play no defense. You're not talking about Hardaway don't play any defense. Neither does Dougie McBuckets. These people don't play defense. They're strictly come off the bench shooters. They're guys who will give you minutes. And if teams have to seriously deal with Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell on the floor at the same time, and I know Rubio's not going to be as much of a factor this year as we'd like him to be, but even with him and passing the ability to pass the ball and having vision on the court, and what we're also seeing now is Evan Mobley. Boy, he was firing the ball up last night. He was throwing up threes from behind the arc, at the top of the key. They weren't going in, mind you, but he's playing much more aggressively. And I like that. He was shooting like 60 some odd percent for the season, uh, but he was only taking surefire shots and they weren't going to him. Now he's playing more physically and taking the ball to the rack. And, that's what I want to see. I want to see decisive from Evan Mobley. It's like you get the ball, you get to your spot, you shoot the ball, and you take your chances. But we've got him, we've got Jared Allen, we've got, some really good young players. You need that 3-point marksman. And we've lost to teams who have them and teams that they don't have near the talent that we did, but at a given night, man, they could fill it up. The other night, what was it, 24 3-point shots? Some such goofy thing they gave up, the Cavaliers gave up. You need to score more from behind the arc in order to keep up with teams. And you're looking, if you're going to go to the playoffs, you're going to be playing against teams like the Nets, and you're going to be playing against teams like the Bucks, and the Bucks aren't going to play like they played the Cavs this last time. They're not going to let Evan Mobley do that. They're going to figure out a better way. But you're going to be playing teams who obviously have an advantage of balance, the ability to make ball shots, not just from down low, but from outside. And we have to be passing the ball more and better and faster. That's important. You're not going to get it from Cedi Osman, whose time on the floor is diminishing. Lamar Stevens isn't going to give it to you. You got to have somebody who's a pure 3-point shooter out there, and I'm hoping that they can get it done. Hoping. Not sure it's going to happen, but I hope. This is something I didn't want to read. Darius Garland's quote, "I should be an all-star." I should be an all-star. Fuck off. You know something? Cleveland has one guy. He's the guy who scored 71 points in a game. Once he did that, that's the deal. He's the all-star from Cleveland. But, the Jared Allens of the world, the Evan Mobleys of the world, even the Darius Garlands of the world. I think Darius Garland's a really good player. But I don't want him to be so focused on the me, me, me. I want the we, we, we. If, is there anything more we can do for you, 21, 22? He's 22 now. 22-year-old guy. Is being a multimillionaire and having endorsements and having a future where your next contract is going to pay you mega bucks, is that enough? Why do people have to be pigs? Why do they have to be hogs? I should be an all-star. Well, do you want a championship or do you want to be an all-star? Somebody's got to be able to distribute the ball. Somebody's got to take one for the team. Somebody's got to penetrate and kick out. Somebody has to do that. That's the point guard. That's what you are, Darius. Shut the fuck up. You're not Donovan Mitchell. You are not a superstar. You're a really good ball handling point guard with a really nice shooting range. You're a really good free throw shooter, and you get plenty of opportunities to score 20 plus points a night. But to average almost 30 points a night, it ain't going to happen with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Get it through your head now. I don't want to see our team go down the shitter this way with the me, me, me. This is a core. I would love to see San Antonio's coach Pops with these young guys like he did with his young core back when, to teach them how to play the game right, to have veterans who would teach them how to play the game right. I don't care about who thinks they should be an all-star. Why don't we get to the playoffs first? Huh? Right now, the Cavaliers have the same fucking record that they had last year. They're not better. For all the talk about, oh, God, they're so much better this year, It isn't reflecting in the record. We're losing games we shouldn't lose. We can't win on the road. It's a problem. And the teams you're losing to, you can't lose to the fucking New York Knicks. And I saw that the Knicks pulled off another one. Right now, the Knicks are in the God's favor, but it ain't going to last because you're not going to have, the left-handed guy, guy who came from Los Angeles. I forget his fucking name. The guy who threw in 36 points against us. They had 37 the night after. He ain't going to throw in threes forever. The Knicks are not that good a basketball team, but you can't afford to lose to them. They had an 11-13 home record when we lost to them. There is no reason why you fall asleep and lose to that. Just not good. You got to get into the main playoff. Fuck the play-in, because if you get into the play-in, you're going to lose again. You're going to be the perennial play-in loser on the bubble all the time. You got to get into the main experience of playing a full playoff kind of 7-game series thing. That's what the playoffs are. You get to play on your home court. You have to win away because you're not going to be in the top 4. So you're going to have to play on the road more than you play at home. You better get good. Julius Randle, thanks a lot, Rick. I don't know why I couldn't. We'll give him full credit here. Yeah, Julius Randle. Yeah, he can chuck them up with the best of them, but they don't usually go in. The last couple of games they have. So I don't want to hear that kind of stuff from Darius Garland because the second Donovan Mitchell came, he is the superstar of the team, whether you like it or you don't like it. But I'll tell you something, he's really, really good. And that's going to hopefully help make the Cavaliers relevant in the postseason. Although against the Knicks, he was fouled twice, according to the final 2-minute reports, and they ignored it both times. He's not there yet. It's one thing to be a superstar. It's another thing to be a superstar in Cleveland. LeBron got calls. Not all the time. If Donovan Mitchell was with the Knicks right now, he'd be getting those calls. And I hate it as much as you do, Christopher. What good does it do me to know that? I know they fucked up. The play where they raked the ball out of his arms that bounced off of Donovan. My God, they ripped his arm off. You could see it. And you could see Hartenstein, my God. I mean, he didn't go completely vertical. He brought his arms down. The second you bring your arms down and chop at somebody, that cannot be verticality. But of course, we knew that was going to happen, that we were not going to get that call. But I will say this. The last 2 possessions that we're talking about here, the one where he got fouled and stripped, the ball bounced off of him. Mitchell had the opportunity to stop and pull up from the 3 because he was on an open floor. Instead of taking it to the rack and allowing them to hack so there'd be no call, you stop and you put that 3 up and you give them a dagger. You're playing in Cleveland. You can't leave it in the hands of the NBA and the officials. That's one thing. All right. The other thing is I'm tired of JB Bickerstaff not having plays drawn up for the end of games. It's not good. Spoken my piece on that. But boy, Rocket fans, I mean, what fans were there? It was spotty attendance there. I mean, it's hard when you've only won 11 games all year. We've been there, the post-LeBron, the 2 post-LeBron apocalypses. That's what it looked like. It's like they went from being a team that had players, they had James Harden, they had players, and they won like 50 some odd games, and then they went to this. That looks like a deep trench that they're not going to be able to dig out of. Because I like Sengun. I mean, he at least, he was a smooth operator. He's a good passer. He can make moves down low. And he was the top player in, Turkish leagues, out in the Euro League. So these are young guys, 19, 20-year-old guys. But Jalen Green, it's like Darius Miles was, when we got our hands on him. All athletic, but lacking the fine skills that are necessary to make it big. There is one thing I wanted to talk about. I promised in the title of the show. Something that is being missed by the national media about the Cleveland Browns. Everybody wants to talk about, well, who are we going to get? Who are we going to get on the defense? What are we going to do? We're going to keep John Johnson third. What are we going to do? And, it's like, stop panicking. You're bringing in a responsible defensive coordinator. I would dare say that the Cleveland Browns don't have the foggiest notion what they got and what they don't got. Because the system they were playing in was just antithetical to anything that's rational thought. Bad. A bad scheme that nobody understood and that people didn't want to play in that scheme. And so people immediately question the skill of the players, like Greg Newsome. They forced Greg Newsome into the goddamn slot when he is a guy who plays mano-a-mano coverage on the outside. They forced him into the slot. Now, how is that going to make your high draft pick happy? That you move him into a goddamn position that pays on average 3 to 4 times less than the star cornerback mano-a-mano island guy. How in the hell is that going to make him all excited about playing? And to play football, you better be excited because you're going to die young. You take the joy of playing the game out of football, and all that's left is pain. So right off the bat, it's like, Greg Newsome hasn't lived up to it. Well, he hasn't lived up to it because they're not letting him play the position that he's supposed to be playing. Jacob Phillips came out on the record and said something had to be done about that defensive scheme. Well, there you have it. The players suddenly are waking up and saying, that it sucked, man. That scheme sucked. There's two things. There's skill and there's will. And football requires both. You can have all the skill in the world, but without the will, forget about it. Who are the hard workers? Who are the guys with will who are going to now be able to show the skill they have in a scheme that will make sense to them? You bring Schwartz in, and he has done this with many, many interior linemen. He's going to find out who has the skill set to play this scheme. What makes the media think that some of the people that we have aren't capable under any circumstance? I have no idea. It's like you're just going to throw away the people that you've got. And, the Buffalo Bills said goodbye to Wyatt Teller. They said goodbye to him because they were running a completely different running scheme. And he did not excel at that. He was an average, mediocre lineman. When he got into a scheme where he could show his stuff, he becomes an all-pro guy. That is what I'm looking for to help with this lack of a draft issue. And nobody's talking about it. We talk about Tommy Togiai and all these people. It's like, they suck. Well, everybody who stepped on the field on that defensive line sucked. Everybody underperformed. There is every reason to believe that a guy like Chase Winovich will be able to rush a quarterback under Schwartz's system. We didn't get that from anybody because, to be honest with you, it was just everything's pointed to Myles Garrett, and everybody else just has to get congealed into the middle of the line. It's really the whole scheme is 2 years of bad news and left a bad taste in a lot of players' mouths. And, we got rid of people who ended up becoming much more efficient where they went in our secondary. We gave up people. They left because there was nothing for them. And they played better where they went. I think we have some people who are capable. Who knows? Some of our linebackers will be healthy. Who knows? Who will rise to the occasion? Fuck this green sticker nonsense. I want vocal leaders who want to lead by example, not by having a sticker put on their fucking helmet. Goddamn Ivy Leaguers. I want leaders. I want people with will, want it, want to do it, will go the extra mile energy-wise to do it. And that's what Schwartz is going to preach. Amsterdam, if Greedy Williams doesn't want to get or is no longer capable of getting physical, he will be gone. But I want to give every one of these players a chance to play in a scheme where they realize that they're out there to put a hurt on somebody because it's a hurting game. That's what it is. So instead of talking about, we got to get it from the draft, we got to get it through trading people, what you need to do is you need to get a wide receiver out of free agency. That's what you need to do. You got to help out the throwing quarterback. But defensively, what you need to do is you've got to be able to bring out the most in what you have. You got no fucking draft to build around. The reason you hired a defensive coordinator who is a professional at that, there's a reason why you did it. And let's see if he can make these players a little better. It's there's so many things, questions like what should the Cowboys do about Dak Prescott? That's one. Or the Rams have hired Mike LaFleur as an offensive coordinator. And I'm like, okay. And then there's the Chiefs linebacker, Willie Gay, says, nothing impresses me. Nothing impresses me about the offense of the Bengals. Great locker room fodder. Why can't they just keep their mouths shut? You're supposed to come up and surprise somebody because your quarterback's crippled. At any rate, I'm saying Cincinnati's going to win. And, wouldn't it be nice if San Francisco won? And there's nothing against Philadelphia, mind you, and Jalen Hurts, nothing against them at all. And if you looked at the season in its entirety, that would be, you'd expect Philadelphia to win. But looking at what with Garoppolo and the whole thing that it went down in with the 49ers, that Brock Purdy could step up. It's a great story. I'd love to see him have a good game. I don't know if it would mean anything as far as winning the ultimate game, but win the penultimate game, Thanks, everybody, for tuning into this edition of Moohead Radio. We're going to have lots of fun this weekend. I'll be back again on Monday, and we'll be talking Cavaliers, we'll be talking Browns, we'll talk about all things Northeast Ohio. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, hasta la vista, Pasture Heads. Good night.